Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I am reviewing a photography collection that I found in my library and I thought had a beautiful cover, so I decided to read it, and I had a great time reading it, looking at the pictures and reading the essays that went with it. So let's talk about the Pink and Blue project by JeongMee Yoon. I'm going to put the name in the information below because I am probably pronouncing it incorrectly. This photography collection has one cover that has this girl with all her pink stuff, and if you flip it over like this is a boy with all his blue stuff. So the first thing you'll notice is there's like two ways to read this book, and it took me a minute of looking through this when I brought this book home and decided to read it to determine the way that I wanted to read this book. So I'm going to tell you the way that I read the book, and I do think that the way I read it was conducive to me understanding what was going on. You can choose to read the book a different way. So this book is set up where there is photographs on the pink side. The part that has the pink cover has photographs of girls with all of their items that are pink. Occasionally, some of these also have follow-up photos of the girls with their items or their rooms as they grow up through time. So here's one that has 2. Occasionally, some have 3 as they have different photographs from the mid-2000s, early 20-teens, and then like some through like 2015. Or 2017. So here's one, this is from 2014, this is from 2017. So this is how the pink section is set up. At the end of the pink section, we have different essays. So this is the Pink and Blue Project artist statement. We also have essays written by different individuals about maybe things they've taken away or things they find interesting. Then on the blue section, that is kind of a point of this photography project. We have this blue section, which is opposite. You have to flip the book like this. So if you read it straight through, eventually you'll be reading pages upside down, which has the same thing, but featuring boys and their collection of blue items. And then as you get closer to the center, you have commentary on this section, and the whole book is divided by this page, which is a spectrum going from blue to pink with purple in the middle. So what I did was I started on the side that had the pink cover. I went all the way to the essay section. I read the essays for the pink section. Then I went back and looked through all the pink photographs. Then I flipped the book over, read the essays for the blue section, and looked through all the blue photographs. And I feel like that gave me all the context I needed, or at least a good starting point to start looking at the photographs and actually understanding more of what I was looking at. I think if I led with the photographs, I would be a little confused or not confused, it's straightforward. It's children with their color coordinated toys and items that have been purchased for them, sitting in their bedrooms surrounded by their stuff. So it's not confusing per se, but I think there's a lot more that can be gleaned from the photographs than maybe I would have developed or thought of by myself initially looking through these photographs. So I do recommend reading those essays first before you start looking at the photographs. This is kind of a commentary on preferences between young girls and young boys and the color of items that they have. And of course, there's a lot of questions about this. This is something that's changed through the ages. Previously, these colors were reversed, but they were switched. I think they said after World War II that pink was heavily associated with little girls, blue heavily associated with little boys, and how almost buying stuff in these colors for these children is supposed to like help them with their identity, or maybe not their identity. I'm going to say that these essays in the middle said everything that I could say way better than I could say it. So I'm really not going to try to paraphrase the essays in the middle, but it is kind of this play between the parents, children's own identities, how the gender of the child mixes in with the items that they have, and how purchasing stuff is a little deeper than just my child needs a book and I'm going to buy them this book, or my child needs a t-shirt and I'm going to buy them a t-shirt. There's some almost coded meaning in it. But I'm not going to go too deep into it because, like I said, the people who wrote essays in the middle section of this book wrote them and said them in ways that are way better than me. What I can say is it's enjoyable to look at, and I think the essays are well done, and it gives you something to think about. There's nothing in the photographs that's really in your face. Well, the colors are very in your face. You can't ignore the fact that the colors are there, and these color preferences, are they really preferences? These color decisions, these color coordinations based on their child is right there front and center, but otherwise it's just a collection of children with their pink or blue things, which I think is really interesting. I actually found these sections most interesting where they had follow-up photographs where they really showed the evolution of someone's personal style. Here's a good one. We have this girl here with her pink stuff and her much older in a room that maybe looks more like we would associate with an adult's room. So this original photo is from 2017, which is obviously a young girl. This is, I would guess, mid to late teens in 2018 here. And I think it shows that, well, I guess I don't want to make any assumptions about what it shows. I think you should read the essays, look at these photos, and make your own conclusion of what you think these photographs are telling you. But I did find this very enjoyable and very, very interesting to flip through. Both the pink side, which featured the girls, and the blue side, which featured the boys. And the boys also had these follow-up photographs like this one, which I did find really, really interesting. Overall, this was a super fun collection. I think this is a book that everyone would enjoy reading. Just like the aesthetic division, just having everything with one color laid out in front of them is very pleasing to look at, I feel like, for the eye, but also just, it makes you think, and the essays were really the perfect length to get you thinking, but not to really hammer the point home. There was one comment in here that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to touch on because I wasn't entirely sure what the person writing the essay meant. And I kind of disagreed with it. Of course, now I'm going to struggle to find it. If I don't find it quickly. Oh, here it is. So I'm going to read a little bit from this section. This is Critical Notes on Pink and Blue by Jun Lim, Chung-Woo Lee, aka Chung-Woo Lee. I'll put this name in the description below because I'm probably not saying that correctly. She says, you delve into the picture and you realize this is a kid who tries to be proud of his proud parents' boy struggling to live up to their expectations, but nobody can truly anticipate how he grows up and which ego he will project himself into. A human being is complicated and cannot judge by his appearance alone. You can also see another kind of exhaustion, in the children who never had their own room growing up. So I read this two ways. You can see another kind of exhaustion in the children who never had their own room growing up, as in they were never allowed to express themselves in their room. And I don't mean like you need to pander to your child's every whim in their decorating decisions, but that these children's decisions of what colors are going to be prevalent in their room is already decided by their parents at a very young age, and so they don't have control over it. Is that what they mean by the exhaustion of never having their own room growing up? Because I can see that point and I understand that point. Maybe in some of these boys sections, there was a heavy emphasis on sports, so did the child choose the sport and then made the room kind of a dedication to their love of sport? Or was this love of sport given to them by a parent where they really didn't have their own choice to make this room a space for something they loved? They were kind of told they liked sports and therefore the room was made to be their space where they love sports. That's one reading of it. The other reading, which I'm not entirely sure is what they meant because this is art and maybe it wasn't supposed to be taken literally in this essay, was that children who have to share a bedroom are somehow have this exhaustion of never having their own space, which I do disagree with. I grew up sharing a bedroom with my two sisters. It was a very tight space. We had our beds, we had our dressers, and there were some challenges, but I never really thought that it never exhausted me. There's plenty of spaces to get away. You could take a walk, you could go outside, you could take a long shower. There were times where my sisters would be at sports practices or extracurricular activities and I wouldn't, or I would go to extracurricular activities and they would be home by themselves. And I also think that learning to live in a room with someone else is a really good skill to have when you have to eventually in life learn how to negotiate with other people in a space where you can't just retreat to your own space to have everything your way. It's like this inherent negotiation you have with everyone else that you have to learn how to work with someone else. You have to learn how to negotiate space with someone else and respect their space and respect your space and come to conclusions at a young age. So I don't think that children need to have their own room growing up. I don't think it's damaging to children to have to share a room. Maybe the science will prove me wrong, but I just wanted to say that comment in the essay in and of itself, the exhaustion in the children who never had their own rooms growing up, if it refers to their parents imposing ideas about the rooms should look like, the colors used, and the things displayed in the room, then I can see that. And that's almost what I think it's more saying. But on first read, I thought they were talking about children who had to share a room growing up and how this was somehow mentally exhausting to the children, which is something I disagree with. at least from personal experience. This was not an exhausting, and I feel like it made me better as a person. It definitely made me way more comfortable with the college process and the part of life, the 20s, the part I'm in now, where you have to live with roommates, where living with other people is non-negotiable. Maybe you have your own bedroom. Some college dorms, I did not have my own bedroom. I shared a bedroom, and you could definitely tell the difference between people who had never had to share a bedroom before and the way that they struggled to navigate the relationship with their roommate versus people who had had to share a bedroom before and the way that they were a little bit more comfortable navigating that relationship with someone else. I just feel like there's differences, and it became very clear in college, and then also people learned in college, so it's a little less prevalent in like the 20s, I would say, but still you can tell the difference between people who have had to negotiate that shared space for a large or the entirety of their childhood versus people who have never had to do that and really struggle to share a space with someone else, even if that shared space is just like a kitchen or like a common living room with a bunch of your roommates, because they haven't had that inherent skill that people like me who had to share a bedroom their entire life, growing up 0 to 18 until I moved out, and then the entire time I've been moved out too, except for the time that I lived by myself, I've had to share. And I feel like it's so innate that it doesn't feel like a burden, and I definitely don't feel mentally exhausted. That's my only comment on the essays. I just think that you should get this book out, look at it yourself, read the essays yourself, draw your own conclusions. Let me know if I'm totally off it on the essays and that was not what the artist intended at all, but this was an enjoyable read. Again, The Pink and Blue Project by JeongMee Yoon. Very enjoyable, cool design. I really liked it. I'm glad I read it, and I highly recommend. If you have any comments on this or have anything you would like to add, feel free to put it in the comments below. I love to read your comments. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.